for will be before us and everyone who serves in the decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we grant to the state the wisdom to make decisions that will be good for the city. We also pray for your special blessing on all those who are working to transform our city and make it a better place to live and work. Amen.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Kennedy.
Here.
Counsel Leahy.
Here.
Counsel Leary.
Here.
Counsel Mercia.
Here.
Counsel Milanazzo. Here. Counsel Rourke.
Here.
Counsel Samaras.
Here.
Counsel Belanger.
Here.
Counsel Elliott.
Here.
It's 9 present.
The first order of business would be acceptance of the minutes of the city council inauguration of January. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Before we do that, the chair would recognize Council Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to offer a moment of silence and darken chamber for Paul Allen, a longtime resident of the Centerville section of the city. Paul was a veteran of World War II and served with the United States Navy, receiving the Victory Medal, the American Theater Medal, and the Asiatic Pacific Theater Medal. Paul was the owner-operator of the Shell station located on the Conrail Bridge and 6th Streets in Lowell. He went on to become a police officer at the University of Lowell campus, retiring in 1990 following many years of service. He was also the former president and bartender at the East End Club of Lowell for over 45 years. He was an outstanding member of the community, working endless hours, helping at fundraisers for the East End Club, including those for the children and the less fortunate of Lowell. He was also dedicated to volunteering at the Paul Center in Chelmsford. You could find him cooking on the holidays for members of the East End Club who had no place to go for the holidays. He leaves behind Laurie Jakes, who spent many years caring for him, as well as his many relatives and friends. He will be truly missed. And I'd also like to offer a moment of silence and darken chamber for Thomas Conlon Jr., a lifelong Lowell resident who is the beloved husband of Dorothy Conlon, who survives him, with whom he celebrated their 53rd wedding anniversary on November 4th, 2015. Mr. Conlon was a veteran of the Korean War. He served as a seaman with the United States Navy. Following his military service, he earned a Bachelor of Science degree in Criminal Justice from Northeastern University in Boston. Lieutenant Conlon's police career began in 1963 when he was appointed a reserve officer for the city of Lowell. He was appointed a permanent officer in 1964, and in 78, Mr. Conlon was promoted to sergeant and then lieutenant in 83. He held that position until his retirement in 92. Mr. Conlon was a member of the Mount Pleasant Golf Club, where he also was a past president. He was a member of the Ancient Order of Hibernians, the East End Club, and the Retired Police Officers Organization in Lowell. In addition to his wife, Dorothy, Mr. Conlon is survived by his 4 daughters, Nancy Ellen, Christine, Maureen, and Dee, 2 sons, Thomas III and James, 10 grandchildren, and many relatives and many dear friends. We offer our sympathy and know that he will be truly missed. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Council Mercia. Please stand. Thank you. Also, before we begin the meeting, I'd just like to make the council aware that observing us this evening is Professor Erica Sanborn's class on community psychology from the University of Massachusetts in Lowell, and most of them up there, and I think some of them are sitting down here as well. First order of business will be acceptance of the minutes of the City Council inauguration of January 4th, the City Council meeting of January 5th. The chair would entertain a motion to accept and place on file. So moved by Councilor Milonazo, second by Councilor Samaras. Discussion. All in favor, all opposed? So voted. Under unfinished business, we have a motion by Councilor Elliott requesting that the city manager provide a report on the status of the property at 155 Manses Street. And we have do we have a second to that this evening? Second to the motion?
Second to the motion for discussion.
We have a second by Councilor Mercier, and at the same time, if there's no objection, the chair would suggest that we bring up item 10.3, which is a petition by Klaus and Anita Romberg to request reconsideration regarding the subdivision of the property at 155 Manses Street. We have a motion to include that with Councilor by Milonazo, second by Councilor Rourke. So we'll take both items up. Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we all received this email after our last meeting, as I explained at the prior meeting. So I thought I would get an update from the manager. But in light of the fact there's a petition filed, I would like to hear from the two petitioners, please.
Okay.
Am I to speak?
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you. I appreciate the invitation to address the City Council and all of you combined. I actually would like to invite Councillor Samaras also to be in the room. I do not see any reason for him not to be in the room. Even though he is a direct abutter, I do not see any reason
That's up to
think
Councilor Samaras.
that there is
That's not up to you, Mr. Robert. That's up to Councilor Samaras.
that there is a conflict of interest, particularly among rational people. And this just as an introduction. I am speaking on our behalf. My name is Klaus Romberg, and I also speak on behalf of my wife, Anita Romberg. She is sitting in the first row in front of you here. And what I am interested in is the City Council to finally approve access to our property on Fairview Street. This is the street on which Councillor Samaras lives across the street from our property. And I have a map here of a lot of 11,050 square feet. What I circulated has only 10,050, but actually it is 11,050. And this map was drawn in 1966 and was repeatedly drawn, also signed by City Clerk Busby at some later date, and this subdivided lot was given a house number on Fairview Street. Now, I don't know all the details, what happened with Fairview Street and why there is a question whether or not we have access to this particular lot on Fairview Street or not. I want to plead with the City Council to approve access to this lot. Actually, our access already exists because I have a map here of 1966 which shows actually the 11,050 square feet as a lot drawn in, and the lot which neighbors now occupy has not even been in existence at the time. And bordering this lot, the previous owner of the property, Mr. Wilkins, Mr. Robert Wilkins, drew a 10-foot swath from Mansour Street all the way to Fairview Street. And when we bought the property, he told us he did that with the particular purpose that he always has access to Fairview Street. So at least for the 10 feet, there is already in existence legal access for us to approach the property on Fairview Street. Now, I have tentatively drawn, and engineering work has already started on that, but it was held up by the vote of the City Council to deny us access on Fairview Street. Now, we already have access, but it also needs to be extended a little further up the street if there is a technicality in the way of this. And I would see that it is entirely reasonable that we ask for your approval. In 1992, Mr. Samaras had to appear in front of the City Council and had to ask to actually have access to his property on Fairview Street for some reason, and I do not know all the details. His right to access, for some reason, had lapsed at the time, but was reinstated in 1992. Why weren't we not notified about our property and our lot on Fairview Street to actually have access on Fairview Street to this lot concomitantly with the requirement that and the hoops that Mr. Samaras had to jump through? We were not invited for that. We were not even notified that there's even a question about access on Fairview Street or not. Now, if there is a murky detail which stops us from actually having access in the views of the city, I am asking the City Council, and I ask all of you here to vote in favor of us having access to our own property. And that was my understanding when we bought the property. That is my understanding when Mr. Wilkins told me that he had kept that 10-foot swath with the specific purpose that there never be a problem with access to Fairview Street. And these 10 feet are actually not including that what Mr. Samaras might have owned at one time, and it was taken over by the city at some later date, and that's why he had to ask for having access allowed to his property. So one tiny little detail. On the map of 1966 that I have, the lines on the property that later on Mr. Robert Mousley, whom you probably know from city activity in the past, when he bought the property and actually built his house, that is when the 10 feet came out of this. But on that map of 1966, when the lot already existed, that lot had not even been created yet. The lot, the Mousley lot, which is now occupied by some successors who have been speaking in front of you here in opposition to us even having access to Fairview Street. I thank you very much for for listening to me here, and I leave it in your hands.
Thank you, Mr. Romberg. Councilor Elliott?
If you have any additional questions, I will stick around.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Councilor Elliott?
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. So I know the petitioners sent their letter. My motion reads to get an update on the status of what had taken place. I did get a copy of the vote that we all took, and it seems that we have in the past adopted easements for things of this nature. So when I read the email from Mr. Klaus, we tried to get back to everyone, and I thought the best thing to do was to get some clarification on the status of this. How often do we do this? Have we done this? I did notice, I looked, I did two things. I went up, and I know I know neighbors came down. Some neighbors came to speak on this issue. But more importantly, my concern is just an issue of fairness. That's all. We received the information from Mr. and Mrs. Romberg, and I wanted to just bring this forward to have you, Mr. Manager, look into it with the law department to address some of the issues that he had sent. I believe you were CC'd on that email, Mr. Manager. So, and I think the petitioner just presented his request, presented his concerns, and that's the reason why I wanted to just bring this up. And there's no vote before us tonight. I know the petitioner asked for a vote, but that's not what the process is. So, I mean, if you look at the GIS, if you go up there, it's on the dead end. Fairview, it's a paper street, and then there's a city right away, Mr. Manager, or we own that property. Which I think we should dispose of anyway. And I mean, it doesn't seem to the neighbors there. It seems like it's just, it's a rectangular piece of property. I'm not sure what the purpose is. But I'm sure someone there would like to, to use it and put on the tax rolls. It's not creating any tax revenue right now. So I just thought it was important to bring it forward, considering the request from the Rombergs, and that was the intent of the motion.
Thank you, Councilor. As you know, your motion has been joined together with the petition that appears later on in the agenda. The normal procedure is to refer those petitions to the Law Department for report and recommendation. And so if there's no objection, the chair would recommend that there be a motion from the floor to send the matter to the Law Department for report and recommendation. So we have a motion by Councilor Mercia, second by Councilor Leary. Discussion on the motion. Councilor Rourke.
Not necessarily on the motion, but I just have a question. This was before us back in, I believe, May of last year. And we had neighbors come and speak on it. I believe water was an issue. One of the neighbors came up and said that when they had bought the house, they were told that nothing else would be built there. And I actually believe that the petitioners at the time said that building a home was not in the cards. So I'm just curious what the difference is between what's brought forward to us now and what was back in May of last year, if that could be answered, whether by the maker of the motion or by the Rombergs.
Councilor Elliott, did you want to respond to that, or? That's an answer that we probably would get from the Law Department when the report came back. Councilor Rourke, if that would be.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm just curious because, we did take a roll call vote that night. And I did see it was 6 nays and 0 yays. So, again, just my own clarification, if I could just, get an answer why it's back here tonight and what the difference is between the first time it was brought forward and today. I don't think we need a law department for that, so.
So I think it's important to get the law department involved because there are some specific differences in this, which I hope the law department can respond. But I just think if somebody sends an email to all of us, it's incumbent upon us to respond. And then the petitioners did send a second request, and I voted for it. There were 2 absent, 1 abstain and 2 absent. So it's just it's a simple request, Counselor. And if the Rombergs have anything else to add, the difference between this time and the last, you can't. Yeah, it's just the sound system, I suppose. There was another question asked. You probably couldn't hear it. What's the difference between the last time you came and this time that you came, the two communications? Mr. Manager, I hope we can get this fixed by the next meeting. Sound system. Could you come to the microphone, please? Could you come to the microphone?
Hey, Counselor Elliott, Counselor Elliott, the matter, the
Yes.
motion on the floor is to refer it to the law department.
Yeah,
for
Council Rourke asked the
recommendation.
question, not me. I mean,
That's
he
just,
wanted to.
that's just one question.
He
It
asked the
doesn't
Roberts
require
to come
multiple
up.
answers.
The lot
go ahead,
that,
Mr.
that existed as far back as 1966 comprised a square footage of 11,050 square feet. What I am doing is incorporating this lot, also eliminating the 10-foot swath, which is in between the neighboring property and this lot, and also extending it backwards towards our house. And the entire lot is calculated to encompass 18,050 square feet. So that is that what
No,
you
Mr.
wanted to
Romberg,
ask?
Mr. Romberg, I think that if you'd stay at the microphone for a minute, I think what Counselor Rourke is asking is, what is the difference between the petition now, this evening, and the petition last May? Not before then, just what's happened between last May and now that would make you come back for, and ask the city council to take it up again?
Mr. Mayor, he
Well,
answered
I'm
it. The
first
configuration of
I'm
the
coming
lot is
back
different.
because I have not been notified about the vote of the city council on this issue. And only opposing neighbors were heard here. And it was even in the newspaper that we were not present. And we were not present because nobody told us that this was on the agenda. And so I would have given you my speech then.
Okay.
And so now I think I think I have given you the tools to understand what is actually going on.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Counselor Elliott, do you have anything to add? Okay, any further discussion? Counselor Mercia?
It also mentions the planning board and what their requirements were. I'd just like to know what was the recommendation from, this must have had to go before the planning board. Did we have any, it did not.
No.
It did not go. What, I mean, they're asking for a subdivision. Didn't it go anywhere?
I think, Counselor Mercia, the petitioners were represented by an attorney at the time, and the attorney appeared here at that time.
Well, then whatever they said to the attorney, which I believe is James Hall, would we have any information as to what the planning board said to the attorney?
Can we hear from the manager on this? Mr. Manager?
The
I'm
question
memory-
of the planning board has been answered already in the letter which I sent you.
Well, I'd like to hear.
Mr. Manager?
The original petition they had was not for a zoning change. It was for an easement on the,
Easement.
on land that we own, because we actually own that land, the city does. So it didn't have to be referred to the planning board because it wasn't for a zoning change. What it was referred to the manager in the law department. We subsequently came back with a report and recommendation. The Rombergs were represented by an attorney at the time, James Hall. He knew about the petition. He knew about it being on the agenda. It was on agenda.net. It was on our website. The neighbors showed that evening, but neither Attorney Hall nor his client showed that evening. So the vote was taken.
Because they were not notified?
No, their attorney would know about it. They were represented by an attorney, so we'd deal with the attorney.
Well, we'll get a recommendation from the law department. Thank you.
Okay, the motion before us is to refer to the law department for report and recommendation. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, all opposed, so voted. All right, we'll skip ahead to communications from the city manager, motion responses. And first will be motion response A, alternative methods of snow removal. Is there any discussion on that? Hearing none, we'll go to motion response B, the Couple Square Business District parking meters. Any discussion on that? Councilor Belanger.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Manager, I want to thank you and Planning Development for a very comprehensive response to this matter, which I think is very, very important. Now, when does the, I mean, it sounds from the, according to the response, that meters are going to be in place, but the businesses were here in December and they didn't seem too keen on it. So is there at least some more dialogue going to take place before these kiosks are actually initiated, may I ask?
Yes, some business owners were here previously that weren't keen on it, but there were many business owners in the Couple Square District that are keen on the parking meters in the Leroy lot. At any rate, we have installed kiosks and metered spots. We haven't started enforcing parking at the Leroy lot yet because there's another business owners meeting on January 20th, which we will discuss it with them and then move forward as we think it's in the best interest of not only us, but the businesses in Couple Square.
Okay,
So January 20th is the next meeting.
okay, can you send correspondence to all council members, a date and time again, Mr. Manager?
Yes.
Thank you,
Yes.
appreciate that.
Councilor Samaras.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. I agree with Councilor Belanger that this report was an excellent report. You not only spoke of the parking issues, but and the issues that people had concerned about the meters, but you spoke about the process, which included the business community members of Couple Square. And I really feel that this model is something that has to be done in all of the business areas, Bridge Street, Pawtuckaville, with what you did. Mr. Manager, could you actually expand and give an overview of what this report covered so people can understand the process that took place?
Mr. Manager.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the council. Yeah, this process started 14 months ago. What we did is, we had originally did this process on the Bridge Street business corridor. And then we took this model and we moved it up to Couple Square. So what we do is we get a group of people from the city. We get the police chief, the fire chief, the commissioner of public works, the parks department, the code inspectors. And what we do is that group does a tour of the business neighborhood and talks to the business people, looks at the business neighborhood and what type of improvements that are needed in that particular business neighborhood. We also meet with the businesses on an individual basis and a group basis. Well, in this case, some of the things we understood was curb appeal. There was a lot of trash in the area, so we got new trash receptacles. We decorated the Couple Square for the past 2 Christmas seasons with a Christmas motif. We also noticed that a number of businesses needed facade improvements to their properties. So what we did is we had them contact the Division of Planning and Development. We had someone there so that we have facade improvement grants that businesses can apply for, and we had them apply for those. As a matter of fact, I think at least 1 or 2 businesses has taken advantage of that program. And then, as you know, we did that complete renovation of Couple Square. The sidewalks, paving, new seating area for the businesses, and one-way on Pine Street. So it's an all-encompassing tour that we do, then come up with recommendations and implement them. I wanted to, at the neighborhood meeting, I had suggested that we have parking meters out in Couple Square, because, I've been going through this since I was a kid, and there was always double parking there, no room for the customers. And so we thought that the parking meters would free up parking spaces for the customers, but the businesses wanted nothing to do with that. So I deferred to them, but at the same time, the Leroy parking lot, they agreed, should be reserved with parking kiosks, and they bought into that concept at that time. So it's been a very wide array of improvements and things we've done up there, and we're going to continue to meet with the business owners. And like I say, we'll notify all the councilors, but January 20th at what time? 10:30 a.m. at Captain John's. We'll be meeting with them again, and we'll formally notify all of the councilors.
Thank you. Thank you for that report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Samaras. Councilor Leahy.
Thank you. I appreciate all the work that you do on this. Is this something where, I don't know, if councilors really want to be at the meeting, 10:30 in the morning is kind of hard. So should we just contact you? If most of us want to be there, maybe we should schedule something at night so we can participate, you know? Unless, there's no need for us to be there, so.
Hey, Mr. Manager?
No, that's fine. We just set it up because that was the most convenient for the business owners. We were trying to look at their schedules with, you know, the fact that they have to run their shops. But we could do something at nighttime too, after this meeting.
I mean, I'm fine with what you're doing up there. I think
Yeah.
it's working out well, but if anybody has any, you know, interest in making the meetings and can't be there, maybe we'll contact you and see if,
I'll give a full report on the outcome of the meeting.
thank you.
Any further discussion on that item? If not,
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Elliott.
thank you. Thank you for the report, Mr. Manager. I am concerned with these lease spaces by Caleb Corporation. I've been up there quite frequently, certainly in the last 2 years, and even in the last few months, just trying to check to see the usage of these spaces, and they're not used. And I appreciate the information that's included in the report, that, you know, as it relates to it's sort of being used as a revenue for, I think, these tow companies, because someone's being very vigilant in watching the spaces, and then they're getting towed, and, you know, patrons are being harassed. And so I think that's something we need to take a look at. I believe did we just adopt a new lease, was it last year, Mr. Manager, for Caleb, and they're 12, and they're not used. And if they're not going to use them, that's understandable. But is there, I think that lot needs to be managed better. We need some infrastructure improvements, the lights, people are parking overnight, and that's not the intent. However, I do see Westford Street, and if the neighbors are not, the businesses are not, it seems that there are a fair amount of cars, and they're probably the business owners that are clogging Westford Street. I see them parked there for hours and hours. Is there any thought into just putting 30-minute parking signs, not metered, maybe both there and in the back lot? How many spots are in the back lot, Mr. Manager? That are now metered, I should say.
Thank you. That's a good question. First of all, the tow company that was towing up there is no longer towing for the city.
Okay.
In large part due to their actions in the Leroy parking lot.
Okay, thank you.
Second, though, timely question about the Caleb lease. We've been looking into it because those spots aren't used by the Caleb Foundation. So we've been having discussions. Kevin Coughlin gave me an update today. My understanding, the previous administration had granted them a lease for those 15 lots in order for them to qualify under the zoning bylaw to put housing in the old Page's Drug. We've had conversations with them, and they don't need those spaces, and they're very willing to give up those spaces to the city. But we just want to make one final verification that it's not going to affect their zoning relief if they give up that lease. But we're very close to having them give up that lease. We have already put in 5 30-minute parking spots right near the entranceway, 2 couple square from the Leroy parking lot. So there are 5 30-minute parking spots right there. Kevin, how many spots do you think overall in the Leroy parking lot?
Approximately 30, Mr. Manager.
So we're, and hopefully we'll be able to free up those 15 spots.
I appreciate the work, and I appreciate the fact that you're trying to manage it, because it is, the infrastructure improvements that we've made in excess of $1 million, it's improved traffic flow and all the other items you mentioned, curb appeal, and that lot needs to service those businesses. So I do appreciate, I appreciate the fact that we have to have that rotation, that turnover for the businesses. So I look forward to the report after that meeting. Thank you.
Any further discussion on item B? If not, moving on to item C is a letter of support for Governor Baker's substance abuse legislation. No discussion on item C. Moving on to item D, which is the Marchand oil response. Any discussion? Council Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First off, D should not say Marchand Oil. They were the former people, and I don't think we should tarnish their name. They never did anything wrong. They're still in business somewhere else, and I think that should not be on there. But I did get the report, and I differ with the report. It says with respect to the heavy equipment and the mounds of fill, there's gonna be a reputable company that's gonna come and do the remedial work, but due to the previously booked contracts and the limited amount of companies that do this work, they haven't started it yet. And I can respect the fact that they need a reputable company to do that, and there's not that many companies that do that. But to say that the work has not started is an understatement. The work has started, and it has started by the man himself that owns the place. He has taken it upon himself to get a jackhammer and floodlights, and he had been doing the jackhammering around where the tanks in the ground are, and he's been doing it from 8:30 in the morning till 7 o'clock at night, and even later if it would have continued. But one of the neighbors that abuts the property, like from here to you, called me up, and I wasn't home, and she left the message on my answering machine, and you could clearly hear the jackhammer going full tilt, and it was almost 7 o'clock at night, coupled with the fact that he has floodlights shining right in all the neighbors' houses. That is unbelievable. And so I have a police report that proves that, and the police report says that this man claims he had a permit from the city to do the work from 7 in the morning to 7 at night. There's no such a permit that exists anywhere. So I think what I want to say is the neighbors are up in arms still with this man who still has construction equipment on his property that should be at a junkyard and not on this property. I don't know what's happening, but we should be monitoring it very carefully. And I don't think the neighbors should have to go through hearing this man jackhammer. But suffice it to say, there's an abundance of problems there. I do know that he had 12 cars, and he's down to 5 like he should. He moved it from the view of hindering traffic to where it was supposed to be, but he only did that because one of the men that's on the board itself, zoning board itself, went over there and had talked to him, and he complied that way. But we're not having a good rapport with this gentleman who continues to aggravate the neighbors. So if we could still keep an eye on it, I'm not happy with what's happening there still. So I just wanted to report my side of the story here.
Any other discussion on this? Council Belanger?
Thank you,
And
Mr.
we'll hear from the
Mayor.
manager.
Councilor Mercy has been bringing this issue up. This is, I think, our third discussion on this, and I've been by the property, and I don't see much in the area of improvement. I really don't. This guy continues. I've been hearing about these tanks these tanks have been outside on the ground for months. It does not take that long. Okay, so enough is enough with this individual. I mean, we all want to help small businesses. We just got done a 20-minute dialogue on Couple Square, and that's what we're here to do. But this guy, in my opinion, is pushing it. He's pushing it. So with that being said, I think it might be best if we maybe make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to push it to the Neighborhood Services Subcommittee, Mr. Mayor, for further discussion and dialogue.
Okay. We have a motion by Council Belanger to refer the item to the Subcommittee on Neighborhoods, seconded by Council Elliott. Discussion on the motion. All in favor, all opposed? So voted. Mr. Manager, did you have something to say on that one?
Yes, in the city, we have an ordinance relative to minimum standards for residential property, but we don't have that for commercial property. And Councilor Leahy has previously brought a motion that we're working on an ordinance right now to have the minimum standards for commercial properties also, which I think when that ordinance comes before you is going to have a lot more teeth for us dealing with places like Coelho in the future.
Okay, moving on to the next item, which is school repairs. Any discussion on school repairs? The report on school repairs, Counsel Leahy.
Thank you. Through you to the manager. So in the report, it says we'll be getting updates, and I know that sometimes it can be overwhelming. Does the list, it says it's gonna start off with, something, I missed it. But, well, it's gonna include A to Z, and basically, for example, like at the Merkland School, they've been having an issue with their windows being broken, so we can address that too. Just trying to monitor that, and then seeing if we can get a jump on replacing the windows also. Just for example, be, okay. All right, thank you.
Mr. Manager?
Yeah, what we're really doing is we're prioritizing the repairs, like we'll be starting with life safety issues. Even though there's no lives at risk, you know, we want to update fire suppression systems, we want to make sure doors are automatically opening, all of those life safety issues, and then go down to the missing doorknob at the end. So but we'll put down the windows at the, are they being vandalized, or is it? We'll look at the Merkland School.
Counsel Leary?
Just I appreciate doing the follow-up, Mr. Manager. Just as well, could we get a list of what the tickets that are outstanding right now? I know you're prioritizing, maybe you prioritize them in a different fashion, but just for the body to look at, what is outstanding, what's the longest, what's the shortest, et cetera, that'd be, I think, beneficial. Thank you, but thank you for the effort reaching out to the school side.
Any further discussion on that? Councilman Monazo?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, to the city manager. What's the threshold for maintenance improvements versus capital improvements, number one? And number two, do any of these expenses count toward our net school spending? I guess.
Mr. Manager?
Thank you.
The threshold is $25,000, and all of them, to my knowledge, qualify for the net school spending. That's one of the things we've been, that's one of the reasons we had the reorganization in DPW
Right.
and hired the Deputy Director for Administration and Finance to make sure that the work orders were being logged into School Dude, and we were getting credit for them. Also, not only because getting credit for them, but to track whether they're being completed. And that's an integral part of the software program also.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Manager.
Counsel Mercy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This was my motion, so I'm happy to have a response to it. And it does state that there's a process in the works for the maintenance of the schools, and I appreciate that very much. I never seen the word custodian. There was an ongoing meeting between all the people, Public Works, Departmental Services, Administration. Did the custodians weigh in on this? Because these are their schools. They're the ones that know firsthand. They're the heartbeat of every school. So were they taking they were...
Yes, Brian Curley, who's in charge of all the custodians, was present there.
He was present, but, I mean, what about the custodians? Did he?
Well, what happened is when our building department went around to do all the tours of the schools and compile the list of repairs, the custodians were with him when he did these tours, so they had the input with Sean Shanahan to point out the issues that had to be addressed.
And he
So
brought their
Yes.
message forward.
Oh, absolutely.
All right. That's good. Thank you.
Yep.
Any further discussion on that item? Okay, moving on to item F, delinquent payments for public safety details. Counsel Rourke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through to the manager or to the CFO. I did get the report. What are some of the things the city is doing to collect on these outstanding debts?
Mr. Manager.
Well, the first thing we did, one of these companies that owed the most money was trying to enter into another contract this year for salting and plowing in the city. And what we did is we told them we'd enter into the contract, but only if you gave us 15%, 25% of each invoice in this upcoming storm season and apply it to the overdue balance till due. So we are deducting 25% of his payment each snowstorm and applying it to his overdue bill. We're also looking in the future is to track these to make sure if they apply for a building permit, that they don't get a building permit. If they apply for a license, they don't get a license. And in the future, in order to contract with the city, they're going to have to make good on the amounts that they owe the city. We're talking about approximately $200,000, which is a significant amount, and we're committed to collecting all of that.
Yeah, I think the reason for the motion that came about was basically this is money that the city's paying out on time to our public safety officials, but it's still taxpayer money that the city could be getting the interest on, and it's basically it's our money that we're putting out there, right, where they should be spending it.
Mr. Manager?
We should hire you to do more collections, because since your motion was filed, Connor Baldwin, our CFO, just tells me that we've already received $83,813 of the $200,000 that was outstanding. So we are working very hard to get the money, so thank you for the motion.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on this item? If not, the last item under communications from the city manager is the charter change update. Council Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did call the city solicitor, Christine O'Connor, to see if we were on the same page with our interpretation of these rules. And she told me that we do not need a charter commission, and that that it's called the Constitution of Special Acts. So in regards to that, I made a motion, which I could suspend the rules and make the motion tonight, but I choose not to do that, and I will.
Chair appreciates that, Council
Yes,
Mercia.
because I think that just because I made a motion doesn't mean that it's my rules or whatever. It'll give the public a chance to, peruse it and see if they can have it, dissect it and whatever, but I did make a motion for next week in regards to this to increase the primary from 19 to 25, and to increase the number of signatures from 50 to 150. If people are not happy with that, feel free to come and rip it apart, but, this is America. You have a right to your expression, so I just thought it's kind of, well, we'll talk about that next week, but thank you.
Thank you, Council
Thank you
Mercia.
for
Any
the
other
interpretation.
discussion on this item? Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's a good idea, Councilor Mercy. I think we've gone through this couple of election cycles where we're spending, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 to eliminate one candidate, when we know that that money could be used, better off somewhere else. So my question through you, Mr. Manager, to the solicitor is, a special act, can it incorporate more than one item, i.e., we want to raise the number of signatures required. We want to increase the number of candidates that would trigger a primary, and can it be that specific? Mr. Manager?
Yes, absolutely. You can include whatever items you want as far as the election process. It's just a home rule petition is what it is, essentially. It's that it's a home rule petition that you list what changes you want, vote upon it, and send it to the delegation to attempt to pass it in the legislature.
Okay, so, this body should deliberate and come up, how would we go about getting recommendations from, other councils may have other thoughts on.
They'd probably move to amend the motion to include the items that they
or
feel.
a committee or something like that as well.
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you.
Any other discussion on this item? Hearing none, the chair would entertain a motion to accept and place on file the Council Leahy.
I had a question on A, and I don't know if did we do that and go over it real fast? Okay.
No, we went over it slow, but we can return
All right.
to A,
I was daydreaming.
which is alternative methods of snow removal. Council Leahy.
Could I just have a question on that? Thank you. Through you, the manager. So in the report, it talks about they're gonna start maybe in Centerville with alternative, okay. Some of the streets over in Back Central are so narrow that I don't think you can get a front end loader down them. So what would they do with streets like that? They're just gonna plow them like they do and?
Mr. Manager.
We'd use Bobcats
Oh,
to
yeah.
go down. It's like Manahan Street near my house. You could never get down there with a plow. with the cars parked, so we'll have to use Bobcats too. But we thought we'd take an area of the city and do a pilot program, and then whatever we learn from that, use in other areas of the city.
Okay. And then is part of this, in the report, I really couldn't figure out, are we gonna work with, say, the Parks Department, and do they run the Bobcats, so, or do we have them on DPD too, on DPW side as well, or?
Well, right now, when, in our contract negotiations last time, we negotiated what's called flexibility, is that even though you work for the Parks Department, we can assign you to the Streets Department in the wintertime, take you from different departments and put you in. So we'll be using all departments to remove snow this winter.
Okay. And in the discussion with the report, did they discuss about getting input from the guys that are actually out in the road, like if they feel like they need to be out a little earlier or a little later, or?
Oh, absolutely. They're the ones who were there.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Because a couple of people called me and thought they could do a better job on sidewalks if they were started a little bit earlier and things like that. So I'm sure that was all in the discussion.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Leahy. Anything else? If not, the chair would entertain a motion to accept the responses from the city manager and place them on file. The motion by Councilor Leahy, seconded by Councilor Leary. All in favor of the discussion on the motion, all in favor, all opposed? So voted. Being well after 7 o'clock, we'll go now to public hearing. We have a public hearing for an ordinance amending the code of the city of Lowell, Massachusetts with respect to Chapter 290 thereof entitled Zoning by extending the existing NB zoning district to include 8 and 20 Stockbridge Avenue and 9 Magnolia Street in Lowell. Chair would open up the hearing on behalf of the proponents.
Attorney George Theodoro, representing Russell and Michael Hamill, who are the petitioners herein. We have requested a continuance of this public hearing to March 16th. The reason is twofold. We're going to be reworking our plans so that we can better demonstrate how we're going to improve the site, as well as, with those improvements, how we will not impede upon the residential neighborhood that abuts the site. Also, it will give us an opportunity to meet with the Pawtuckaville Citizens Association. We're on the agenda for the February 1st meeting. So we have discussed this with them, and we told them that we were going to go forward, redo plans so that we could demonstrate to them how we're going to better suit the site to accommodate the neighborhood, and it'll give us an opportunity to have a discussion with the neighborhood at that time. So we ask the council continue this public hearing to February 16th.
Okay, could I ask you, does it make a difference if it's postponed to February 23rd?
March 16th?
16th or 23rd, does that make a difference to you for some reason?
I don't think it does for our purposes, no.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
The only thing is, we'll let the Pawtuckaville Citizens Association know that we're putting that the council is going to be moving it over to the 23rd.
Yes.
That's the only thing.
Okay, all right, thank you. Anybody else wish to speak in favor? We have people here, so we may as well have the part of the hearing, and then we'll postpone the hearing if that's what the council wishes, and continue the hearing at that time. But there may be people in the audience who came down this evening to speak either in favor or opposed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else who wants to speak in favor? In favor? In favor? Hearing none. We'll suspend this part of the hearing for now. We'll open up the hearing for those who wish to speak in opposition. Anybody who wishes to speak in opposition?
Hopefully, just a simple question. Can I do the same thing? Can I wait and speak?
Sure.
Does it make any difference to the council at all? If I wait and speak at that date?
Yes.
Okay, thank you then.
Okay. Does anybody else wish to speak in opposition? Hearing none, yes. You need to come up to the microphone, ma'am. Just for clarification, it's likely that this public hearing will be postponed until the 23rd, but maybe there are people here this evening that can't be here on the 23rd, and they've come down for this public hearing as it was advertised, so we're just giving them an opportunity to speak on the matter now. So go ahead.
Okay, I'm just gonna, that's what I'll do, and I'll be back on the 23rd to speak of another matter that's going on. My name is Deborah Cortez. I live at 256 School Street in Lowell, Massachusetts, 01854.
Excuse me, I think your matter is later on in the agenda.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
It's
Sorry.
okay, that's all right. Anybody else who wishes to speak in opposition? The chair would entertain a motion to suspend the hearing until February 23rd. We have a motion by Counsel Leary, seconded by Counsel Leahy. Discussion on the motion. All in favor, all opposed? So voted.
February 23rd.
All right, now to item 4.2, which is a communication, report and recommendation from the planning board to extend the NB district, zoning district to include parcels at Stockbridge Street, Stockbridge Avenue and Magnolia Street. The chair would entertain a motion to continue this until the 23rd as well. We have so moved. Discussion, all in favor, all opposed, so voted. We have a communication from the city manager for out-of-state travel, item 4.3. Communication from the city manager to request out-of-state travel for the health department. This requires a roll call vote.
Move
Any
approval.
discussion? We have a motion to approve by Councilor Mercia, second by Councilor Leary. Discussion on the motion, roll call.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Leary.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Samaras.
Yes.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Counsel Elliott.
Yes.
That's 9 yeas.
So voted. We have a motion to accept a gift in the amount of $1,500 to purchase a ballistic vest for for a canine at the Lowell Police Department. We need a motion to waive the first reading. We have a motion by Councilor Elliott to waive the first reading, seconded by Councilor Belanger. Discussion, all in favor, all opposed. The second reading is authorizing the city manager on behalf of the city of Lowell to accept various gifts in the amount of $1,500 for the purpose of purchasing a ballistic vest for Lowell Police Department Canine Bossy. Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want the public to know that the Lowell High School ROTC held a fundraiser, and they raised this money for that specific purpose, and they called it Candy Canes for Canines. And they arranged this money donation for the safety of that canine dog, Bossy. I'm very, very proud of them to do that. I love animals too, so I think that's very good. We have the dog go out, and he's in danger sometimes, so I'm happy to see that he's as protected as the police officers, so that's wonderful. Congratulations, and thank you send them a nice thank you letter for that.
Okay, thank you for pointing that out, Councilor Mercia. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Need a motion on it.
Oh, we need a motion to accept the money.
Move approval.
Councilor Elliott, seconded by Councilor Leahy. Discussion on the motion. Roll call.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Leary.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
I want to say woof, but I'll say yes.
Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Samaras.
Yes.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Counsel Elliott.
Yes.
9 yeas.
So voted. And the next item is to accept a proposal in the amount of $300,000 from the Coalition for a Better Acre to purchase 412 Merrimack Street, also known as the Smith Baker Center. The chair would entertain a motion to waive the full reading. Counsel Elliott, seconded by Counsel Leahy. Discussion, all in favor, all opposed, so voted. So the second reading, we have authorizing the city manager to accept the proposal for a Coalition of a Better Acre in the amount of $300,000 to purchase property located at 412 Merrimack Street in Lowell, known as the Smith Baker Center, and to execute all documents necessary for the transfer of the property. The chair would entertain a motion to approve. We have a motion to approve by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Leary. Discussion on the motion. Roll call.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor.
I'm sorry, Councilor
I
Elliott.
thought we were going to talk about it. I just wanted to commend the CBA and the city manager for staying the course on this proposal. There was a task force set up and met over several months, and I mean, this property has been vacant since over a decade, and it's gone out for RFP on a number of occasions, and there's still a long road ahead that, you know, this proposal, once it's adopted and, you know, taking the drawings and the plans and making it happen. But we've had very little interest in this, and I just want to commend the CBA, especially under the leadership of Youngju Choi, to stay the course on this. Her and her board, they've not only spent time, but they've invested thousands into plans, into studies to see how we can reuse that building across the street, and I'm still very enthusiastic about it. She's been out in the community soliciting funds, coming up with creative ideas on naming rights and programs, and looking at generating revenue through the use of the hall upstairs, the performing arts. So I think it's very exciting. I know there's a lot more work that has to go in, but this is a real proposal. It's a good proposal, and I know she's going to succeed because she's very passionate, her and her board and CBA. So I just want to thank you for the interest. I think in the next few years we're going to see a lot of activity across the street, and you know, the second part of this is the longer we wait, the more dilapidated that building gets. I mean, it's winterized to some degree, but it's sitting idle. There are some, you know, there are some problems as it just sits there and continues to erode. So, that being said, I know we've spoke on this again, but I think this is exciting. I think it's promising, and we want to thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Elliott. Councilor Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I, too, want to weigh in on this issue as well, and the Smith-Baker Center has been abandoned and empty for all those years, and the longer that happens, the more deterioration sets in. But this is a good person that is going to take over this, see this come to fruition, because it's no secret that I know Youngju Choi very well, and I know of her passion and her accomplishments when all you have to do is see her proven track record, and the Coalition for a Better Acre, the organization is unbelievable. When you see what they have done to the lot there on Gorham Street and made beautiful, affordable housing for families, I'm just so proud of the work that is done by that group, and I look forward to see that happen across the street. And I don't think it's going to happen overnight, but you have the best people in place to make that happen, and I'm very grateful and honored to be voting in favor of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Mercia. Any further discussion? Councilor Samaras, then Councilor Milonazo.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. I too want to thank Youngju Joy for the work that she's done. I know over a year ago, I had asked the city council to look at the possibility of creating fundraising for this building, because it was a building that no one seemed to be able to make use of it. And when Youngju Joy made this announcement that she was looking at this building, her plans are doable. And I think what the taxpayers have to know, that if she's able to complete this task, this will not be a building taken off the tax rolls, but a building added to the tax rolls. And I think she's to be commended for that, and I think that she will truly make this a success. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Samaras. Councilor Milonazo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too want to go on record in support of the vote before us tonight and the good work that the Blue Ribbon Committee has done. And I was actually a member of the Blue Ribbon Committee, so I'd like to publicly thank former Mayor Elliott for his leadership in putting the Blue Ribbon Committee together. And those of us that have been mayors, you come upon what I would call a legacy project, and in my opinion, based upon the fact that this vote will award this property to the Coalition for Better Acre, I have the utmost confidence that the project will be seen to its completion. So Mayor Elliott, former Mayor Elliott, I think that this is one of those legacy projects that you can certainly take, as well as the former council, some credit for. So again, fully support the effort here. And again, I've been working with the Coalition for Better Acre, I think going on 35 years. It's really hard to believe, but I too have the utmost confidence in their ability to get this project done. So again, thank you to former Mayor Elliott and the members of the Blue Ribbon Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Milonazo. Councilor Elliott?
Thank you. I want to thank the committee because we did meet. We didn't meet a lot, but it was another commitment, and I think that committee showed the interest in getting this project moving again and bringing it over the goal line. I think that committee also gave the support to CBA that, you know, we're not talking about it anymore. We want to see this happen, and whatever the city can do to make that happen, we are there. We have your support, along with all the business leaders, the Lowell Plan, the National Park, the LDFC, the university. You know, so many partners that came to the meeting, that came to the table, and showed that there is deep support in this community for that. So I want to thank you, Councilman Milazzo, as well, for your leadership on the committee and spreading the word throughout the business community that's able to open some doors for CBA and Young Jew Choi for support. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Elliott. Any other discussion? Roll call?
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes.
Council Leahy.
Yes.
Council Leary.
Yes.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
Council Milonazo.
Yes.
Council Rourke.
Yes.
Council Samaras.
Yes.
Council Belanger.
Yes.
Council Elliott.
Yes.
That's 9 yeas.
Next order of business, so voted. Next order of business is a order for a 60-day trial for various
That's kind of long. We'll just call it like the one I sent of the Elliott's.
various traffic regulations for a 60-day period.
So moved.
We have a motion by Council Leahy to waive the full reading, seconded by Council Leary. All in favor? All opposed? So voted. Second hearing pursuant to Chapter 266 of the Code of Ordinances, the City of Lowell, Massachusetts, concerning Section 266-6 thereof, entitled Temporary Experimental Regulations, Temporary Traffic Regulations are hereby implemented for a 60-day period. We have a motion to approve. Motion approved by Council Rourke, seconded by Council Milonazo. Discussion on the motion. Roll call.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes.
Council Leahy.
Yes.
Council Leary.
Yes.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
Council Milonazo.
Yes.
Council Rourke.
Yes.
Council Samaras.
Yes.
Council Belanger.
Yes.
Council Elliott.
Yes.
9 yeas.
So voted. Next order of business would be an ordinance to amend the zoning 11.4 site plan review regarding sidewalk standards to schools not operating in the school department. There's no objection. We'll waive the first reading. Hearing none, the second reading. An ordinance amending the zoning ordinance of the City of Lowell, Massachusetts by amending Article 2 definition and amending Article 11 administration and procedures, specifically Section 11.4 entitled Site Plan Review. Chair would entertain a motion to refer this to the Planning Board for a report and a recommendation and to send it to a public hearing for March 1st, 2016 at 7 p.m. We have a motion by Council Rourke, second by Milonazo. Council Milonazo, discussion on the motion. All in favor, all opposed? So voted. Next, we have a resolution from the city manager to support legislation to fix gas leaks. House Bills 2870 and 2871. If there's no objection, we'll waive the first reading. Second reading, the City Council of the City of Lowell wishes to be recorded in support of House Bill 2870 and 2871 to fix gas leaks in the Commonwealth in Lowell. Chair would entertain a motion to approve. We have a motion to approve by Council Rourke, seconded by Council Leahy. Discussion on the motion. All in favor? All roll call on the motion.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes.
Council Leahy.
Yes.
Council Leary.
Yes.
Council Mercia.
Yes.
Council Milonazo.
Yes.
Council Rourke.
Yes.
Council Samaras.
Yes.
Council Belanger.
Yes.
Council Elliott.
Yes.
9 yeas.
So voted. Next order of business would be subcommittee reports, if there are any. We have a subcommittee report. Hearing none, we'll move on to petitions. We have three petitions before us. The first one is is property claims. The chair would entertain a motion to refer to the law department for a report and recommendation. We have a motion by Council Milonazo, seconded by Council Rourke. Discussion on the motion. All in favor, all opposed? So voted. Next order is a petition for a miscellaneous petition for Cricket Wireless to request permission to install an overhanging sign at 120 Merrimack Street. Do we have a speaker for this? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Hazelwood Hopkins, 2 Phoebe Way, Worcester, Mass. I'm a sign permit consultant, and we're working with Cricket Wireless and the sign maker to install a sign over the public way. We have already gotten approval from the Historic Commission. Mr. Stowell, I think, has sent in a letter. The bracket is on the building. There is no sign hanging from it. The previous tenant, whoever it was, has removed that. And Cricket will hang their small 6-square-foot, non-illuminated sign on that existing bracket. That is the petition before you.
Okay, thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to refer this matter to the law department for a report and recommendation. We have a motion by Council Milonazo to do that, seconded by Councilor Samaras. Discussion on the motion. All in favor, all opposed? So voted. Next, we have a petition from Deborah Cortez, request to address the city council regarding the parking of a vehicle in a residential yard. Ms. Cortez, this would be the time to.
Excuse me for my appearance, I'm very nervous here. Here is the petition that I wrote up that you people have. I just want to say, I just want to introduce myself very quickly here. Good evening, Mr. Mayor Elliott and City Council members of Lowell, City of Lowell. I would like to start.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Your name and address first?
Oh,
Did you
yes.
give that? Yeah.
Sorry, and I have it here. 256 School Street, Lowell, Massachusetts. Lifetime resident of the acre. I would like to start off with introducing myself, and I did. I've been going through. For this, let me do this, because I just got a question. I'll probably have to come back to speak about this, what I have. Okay, so what I did right was, I, Deborah Cortez, live at 256 School Street, have been getting pictures of my car in my private driveway since June 6, 2015. Do not have money to fix it right now, and it's in my private driveway covered with a tarp, not doing any harm. I see this as harassment. I am a 56-year-old woman with a lot of disabilities, and I have been denied all of my civil rights. I have refused every single right for grants to help me with repairs on my house. I have appealed all of the citations every week since for $300 weekly on citations with pictures. I finally got a hearing for this problem, January 12, 2016, and yesterday I still got another citation and I had it rescheduled here today, and they knew that I was going to speak at the city council meeting on 1/12/2016.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The chair would entertain a motion to refer this to the law department for a report and recommendation. So moved by Councilor Mercia, seconded by Councilor Samaras. Discussion on the motion, Councilor Mercia?
Yes, I'd like to discuss this, and it's a shame that the city manager has stepped out of the room for a minute, but I'm going to address
Oh,
this
why?
through you to the Assistant City Manager, Michael McGovern.
Excuse me, Rita. I have it written down here if you want to just get it all done right now. It shouldn't take 5 minutes.
I'm just commenting on
Okay,
your
go ahead.
situation here.
Go ahead, Rita.
And I'm not representing her in any way, but I'm just looking at what I see here. And I know that we have ordinances in the city. There's no doubt about that, and we follow the rules. We try to follow the rules. And the reason that we have this particular ordinance for uninsured vehicles on your property is and here's the city manager, okay. I'm just commenting on Deborah Cortez's situation here with an unregistered vehicle in her yard with a tarp over it. And we do have an ordinance that says you cannot have an unregistered vehicle on your property. And I know that's kind of the reason why we had this in the first place was because people were repairing cars, then there was another car and they were repairing that. And so an ordinance was made to stop people from doing that. And in this day and age, it's kind of a shame when you have a piece of property that you own and you can't leave a car there, but in your case, you covered it over. I don't know, what the situation is there, but let me just say, I don't find a problem with that on an individual basis, because I don't think that Deborah is going to crawl underneath and start lifting up the motor or taking the starter out or whatever. I know that she wouldn't be doing that. It applies to me to people that are blatantly using their driveways for car repair and this and that. I'm remembering a time years ago when a woman called me up and her son had bought a nice car and he put it in the driveway and he registered it, and then he registered to the service, and he went into the service, and he would no longer be using the car, but the mother and father thought it would be good for him to still have it when he came back, and they unregistered it and put a top over it, and he had a similar problem whereby they were always targeted for this car, and so they ended up selling it. Here is a woman that has bought a car. I suppose she spent a lot of time trying to save the money to get that car. It isn't everybody that has the luxury to be able to buy a car and register it. She's in the process of saving money so that she can register it. In the meantime, she covered it. I don't know why we have to keep targeting a person and giving them citations and fines, and I don't know. That's just me. I really feel bad when people do not have the money. She's disabled. I'm sure she doesn't get a lot on a disability check, but she does have a right to drive. She does have a right to buy a car. It's just that she couldn't buy it and register it all at once. Sometimes I think that's a gray area, and we should take this ordinance on an individual basis. So I'm just appealing as a person that has a heart, so to speak, to see if we might be able to work something out whereby she can give us some sort of a timeline when she thinks she may be able to register it, instead of just constantly fining someone. We pay our taxes, we own our driveway, and I know that I couldn't use my driveway to, have a used car lot or a repair on my property, but I think if you have one vehicle and you're not in the business of wanting to make a living out of that, so I don't see a problem here. So I would like to refer this not only to the law department, but to you, to see if we might work something out.
I would just like to say something, please. This is what I have been receiving since June, every single week in my mailbox for $300 of citations. And like I said, I even received one yesterday when they knew I was coming to the meeting tonight to speak about this. And what Rita said is true. I don't have the money to fix the car right now. When the good weather does come, I am saving, and hopefully I can get the car up and running. I'm disabled, and I just don't have the funding right now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so if there's no objection, Council Mercy would like to amend her motion to also refer it to the city manager's office for a report
Yes,
for him as well. Hearing no objection, the amendment will be accepted. Discussion on the motion? All in favor? All opposed? So voted. Next, we'll move to council motions. The first council motion of the evening is a motion by Councilor Mercia to request that the city council support a resolution to Congressman Tsongas to restore 80% of the drug forfeiture money to the Lowell Police Department. We have a second by Councilor Rourke. Councilor Mercia.
Knock on wood, I thought nobody was going to second it, but thank you very much. This motion was sparked by a story I recently read in The Sun. The article made me aware of a decision by the United States Department of Justice to suspend its asset forfeiture program, which could have a long-lasting and detrimental effect on the ability of local law enforcement to train officers, conduct complex investigations, and buy new technology for the Lowell Police Department. Recently, this council voted and authorized the Lowell Police Department to purchase 60 Taser stun guns, of which a great portion of the money for that expenditure comes from this forfeiture assets proceeds account. We rely on these funds. It supplements our budget. We would get 80% and 20 would go back to the federal agency that assisted in the investigation. It appears now that Congress put a hold on the assets and suspended the program. There will be no money coming in from the federal government, even if property and assets are seized. We still have the right to conduct asset forfeiture proceedings under state law. The difference is that police will only get 50% rather than 80% from the federal government. This motion is accepted, if accepted by my colleagues, would request a resolution be sent to our Congresswoman Tsongas in hopes that she can find ways and means to restore the 80% to what our police department relied heavily on, that helped us during tight budget times, that helped us afford things that we wouldn't be able to afford otherwise, that provided ammunition for training our police, equipment, building maintenance, and odds and ends. After all, the Department of Justice announced that 2 spending bills passed by Congress recently had so reduced the funding availability from the Equitable Sharing Program, and that move and those 2 votes by Congress forced federal officials to suspend the program. This is a sad day for the City of Lowell Police Department. Our displeasure should be heard, and I feel through this motion and the resolution, our message would be the way to do it. But let me give an afterthought to this motion, because last week, Congresswoman Nikki Tsongas did call me yesterday, and she must have heard about this motion. I know that Russell from the Congresswoman's office is here, and she welcomed this gesture in the form of this resolution. She said that a letter in Washington is being circulated to Congress that reflects the dismay that has occurred with the suspending of the program. Hopefully, this resolution can be circulated along with that letter as well. I know that last week Congress supported and passed a $1.1 trillion budget, and they supported things like Obamacare, Planned Parenthood, and they supported refugees, and I say to myself, where is the priority? For we have an opioid epidemic in this city, and we need every tool possible to help us with the police department. And I think that we should look at that and see if we can help with this resolution to help our Congresswoman, because I believe that she feels the way that we do, and I thank her for calling me on it.
Thank you, Councilor Mercia. Anybody else want to be heard on this motion? Councilor Leahy.
I think it's a good motion. I think we should go after the money, and appreciate Councilor Mercia putting this on the agenda. When I read the article, I was kind of shocked at it too, so it's a big loss, and anything we can do to restore some of that money is worthwhile, so it's a good motion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion?
If we
Counselor
could,
Elliott.
if we could have a roll call on this.
Counselor Elliott.
Yeah, I just have a question, Mr. Mayor, through you to the manager. Have you received anything from the Department of Justice or otherwise indicating when this is going to be implemented or when it's going to take effect, or was the decision to take effect immediately?
It took effect immediately.
It did.
They called us last week and said, it's just done immediately.
So where does all that money go now? Just goes right into DOJ, right into the...
Yeah, I mean, it was an act of the Congress.
Right.
I don't know where the money went. I asked the chief, it costs us probably about $95,000 it's going to cost us. So it is a significant amount of money, and it's good to send the resolution down.
So that money goes back into the federal government if it's a federal investigation. There's also a state fund, correct? So that hasn't been taken away yet.
That's still in effect.
Okay. Thank you. I agree. I think it's a good motion that we continue. I mean, I think we have to send a message that this is very important. It doesn't supplement, but it does supplant, particularly with drug investigations, which was the purpose of, this revenue sharing, that, it's an incentive, not an incentive, but it's a way to continue to investigate and enforce, drugs in the city. So it is disappointing knowing that we did use it for, things like overtime or so many other areas that help the city continue its, fight against drugs. So it's disappointing, but I support the motion. I think it's well worth our effort to pursue this with our Congresswoman.
Any further discussion? Council Mercy's asked for a roll call. Clerk will call the roll.
Mayor Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Leary.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Counsel Milonazo.
Yes.
Counsel Rourke.
Yes.
Counsel Samaras.
Yes.
Counsel Belanger.
Yes.
Counsel Elliott.
Yes.
9 yeas.
So voted. The next motion before the city council is a motion by Councilor Samaras and Councilor Leary to request that the city manager have the traffic engineer explore the traffic safety issue created by cars using the breakdown lane to turn right onto, Old Ferry Road from Route 110, Pawtucket Boulevard. Councilor Samaras, this motion needs no second. Councilor Samaras on the motion.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. This is an issue that was spoken about at the last neighborhood meeting for the Pawtucketville Association. This is a safety issue that's been around for a long time. It's the coming up from Lowell, making a right-hand turn into Old Ferry Road. The problem has been that there's a breakdown lane, and many people are using the breakdown lane to take the right, while people observing the right process are taking a right at the same time. And that's been a cause of problems for a number of people. I guess in the past, one of the ways of dealing with that issue was to place barrels on the breakdown lane. And I think we know that that's futile because now it's wintertime. You need to plow that area. So I'd like to request the city manager have the city engineer look at the possibility of making the breakdown lane a right turn lane as opposed to, what it is at present. And this way, people will know what they're supposed to do and not do. And I think this will deal with some of the issues. But, of course, I know we need the safety engineer or the traffic engineer to go up there and properly identify the widths of the streets and if it can be done. That's a thought. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Leary?
Just to echo on what Councilor Samaras was stating, in fact, on the way to I went to the same meeting, I actually took a right on Old Ferry Road and was in the breakdown lane. It's something that seems to be a common practice of folks doing it because it's a natural thing to do. Obviously, it's not appropriate, so I think we could look into it and see if that's feasible to do that. That'd be good. Or even take a look at making that right-hand lane turn right, because as you go forward, as you get before Maycom, it turns into a single lane further up the road. But either way, anything we could take a look at, that'd be much appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilor. Any other discussion? Councilor Leahy, then Councilor Elliott.
Thank you. Through you to the manager, at the same time when we look at that intersection, could we take a look at Old Ferry Road? Especially in the morning, the congestion the traffic gets backed up there. And it seems like it's wide enough to make a two-lane road, 2 lanes on that one side, because when you get up to the light, you can only turn left or right. And it seems like if we had 2 lanes and you could turn right and 1 lane to turn left, you would alleviate a lot of the traffic for some people in the morning. So if we could ask them to take a look at that also, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Councilor Elliott.
Thank you. Very briefly, Mr. Mayor. This is a good motion. This has been a longstanding problem. The roadway is 3 lanes wide, but the furthest right is naturally an emergency lane. But I think if you just putting a drop line or creating a drop-off lane makes a lot of sense. People are doing it anyway, so when you abide by the law and you stay in the center lane, and when you do go to take the right on, whether it's green or right on red, you don't know if you get another car that's going to sideswipe you or not. So I think this is a motion that it's a good motion should have been filed a long time ago. Because if you look on the other side, going towards the set of lights going over the Rockbridge, there's a drop-off lane. It goes, breakdown lane, drop off to the right. So I think it makes sense, and we'll have to work with Mass Highway, but hopefully we can straighten that out soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Elliott. Any other discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion, all opposed? So voted. The next motion is a motion by Councilor Leary to request that the city manager contact Congresswoman Tsongas, Senator Markey, and Senator Warren in order to discuss appropriate funding for the newcomer students entering the Lowell Public Schools. In addition, work with the Lowell Public Schools to ensure that we are coordinating our efforts regarding newcomer student funding appropriation. Do we have a second? Second by Councilor Leahy. Councilor Leary?
Just briefly, this was actually a motion filed on the school committee side as well. I think Mayor Elliott at the time and myself filed it. And the reasons that we filed it is because if you're looking at the number of dollars we get for each student, for the average student or all students, we receive about $12,000 rounded per student. And the average cost for the newcomers is in this vicinity of $22,000 to $25,000 per student, depending on the numbers you're looking at. So there's a substantial difference. It's almost or twice as much of funding that we're actually receiving. We do receive a $500, I guess, a stipend for each newcomer that comes in, which is not sufficient to meet not only their needs, but our needs to educate the whole school system. I do know that I think it's on January 20th that 21st, thank you, committee member of the school committee, Bob Gignac, has invited the federal delegation. I know a representative for the city will be there. So I think it's kind of opportunistic at this point to really join the school department in terms of seeking additional funding. The school department, as you know, are going to be facing a tough budget year. A lot of the costs that are incurring on the school side are really unfunded mandates or partially funded mandates that are increasing. And newcomers, I think our folks on the school side do an admirable job. In fact, probably do the best job of educating newcomers. But they need support, and our school system needs support in order to make sure that the resources are appropriate. So I would encourage the council to support and contact the delegation. I appreciate the fact that you're going to be on hand on the 21st as well, because we've tried in the school department for over a year to get any real feedback. It's going to be obviously challenging because it's the federal government. But I do want to thank you for taking that time, and I hope the council will support the motion. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the motion? Councilor Belanger, then Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is a great motion, and this council is certainly going to benefit from Councilor Leary's experience coming from the school committee. I think this is a great example. It's no secret Lowell is a gateway city, and this is where a lot of refugees are settled. And to Councilor Leary's point that, we receive nearly just about 400 newcomers per year. Can't speak English. They need special teachers, and the cost is double, as he just stated. This is simply not sustainable. This could call for an increase in taxes to sustain. So something needs to be done sooner rather than later, and again, I appreciate this being brought to our attention. So this is a conversation needs to take place sooner rather than later, because this 10 years down the road, we're in trouble. So I appreciate the motion, I support it. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Council Belanger. Council Elliott.
Well, I don't have much to add. I think Council Belanger and Council Leahy really described the issue and the need to get some support as well as some political support and help from our delegation. It's on the average between 300 and 400 new students every year. And the challenge behind that is it's not planned. So the space has become an issue. This is multiple years taking effect. We're going to educate every child, certainly that signs up. That's our obligation. That's what we want to do. But sustaining and finding the space, as well as being able to plan to have enough teachers to set up this, it's a 1 through 6 phase with English, with ELL, so English language learners. So it's complicated, but at the very least, we need some financial help for the federal government. The State Department places refugees through the gateway cities if there is an organization that will help them settle. That is why we have been seeing these numbers, but they sign up for school in June and July, well after the budget has been adopted, and classroom sizes have been set up. So we scramble, and this is increasing classroom size, and we need to let the federal government know that it's a huge challenge. And of course, we're required to educate, but we just can't simply afford it any longer. So I think it's a good motion, and we need to continue to raise this issue to those individuals that will appropriate the money, as well as set these limits. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Elliott. Any further discussion? Councilor Samaras.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. I want to commend Councilor Leahy for the motion and Councilor Belanger and Elliott for their support. I think what people don't realize is that in an educational system, your teachers, your principals, everybody, they want to do the job. They want to do the right job. When you're talking about new citizens or new students coming to this country and the issues that they deal with, we want to make sure that we provide them a good education. We also want to make sure that we can also support the education that we're giving our children already in the city. And the way this process has been funded is so poor, it doesn't allow for planning, and it doesn't allow for good education to take place. Teachers do yeoman work to make this happen. So I think this is a good motion, and I think this is something that we all should stay on top of, because if we want to make Lowell the best place to be, there are times when you need the funds to do it. And this is simply about money. It's not about the issue of problems. We know how to solve the problem. We know how to educate the children, but we need the resources to do it. So I want to commend everybody for making this motion. It's important at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Samaras. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, all opposed? So voted. The last motion of the evening is a motion by Councilor Leahy to request that the city manager of the proper department address the litter issue in panhandling areas around the city. Seconded by Councilor Leary.
Thank you.
Councilor Leahy.
This is a problem that I've spoken to the manager about, and it's just driving me nuts. So anything we can do specifically around Plain Street, downtown area, it just seems like every 2 weeks somebody's picking up 2-3 bags of garbage. So anything that we can do to address this from any angle would be appreciated by all the residents. Thank you.
Councilor Belanger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be brief. I think this is a good motion and necessary. You see it downtown too. They leave signs for the next person to come over, and you see this 3-4 individuals on the same day holding the same sign along with coffee cups and every other thing. And it's off the connectors, it's off the gateways, where people, visitors, we'd rather not have them see that. So it is a problem, and I look forward to the response. But if I may, Mr. Mayor, through you to the manager now. Mr. Manager, can you briefly tell us the ruling? I know we recently didn't receive a very favorable, if you will, decision from the courts on this panhandling rule. So I guess what are our rights at this point? Do we have any, may I ask?
Mr. Manager.
Yes, The courts, and there were a number of decisions that have come down recently, have consistently ruled that we cannot outlaw the panhandling or to regulate it the way we try to regulate it because it's a violation of free speech. But each justice has mentioned that municipalities have other ways to enforce to stop panhandling other than just outright banning it. And I think what they're talking about is they're talking about littering laws, jaywalking, disturbing the peace, all of those ordinances that we have on the books that we can use to deal with the panhandlers. And we're doing that right now. We've started formulating a strategy. We're working with the law department to make sure it passes constitutional muster. And we're going to use the ordinances that we have on the books to address the panhandling issue. And that's the best way that we can do it in light of the court decisions.
Okay, well, that's good. That's rather comprehensive, and I look forward to that response. But you also mentioned sort of drop boxes, if you will, that will go to local food banks and shelters rather than giving money to Panhandle. Is that in the mix as well?
Mr. Manager?
It wasn't. We've always been referring to San Antonio as the model for panhandling ordinances, and they've abandoned all of their efforts because they just haven't worked. So it sounded good, but in reality, it didn't work in San Antonio. So what we're going to do is we're going to concentrate on the ordinances that we have on the books and try and abate the issues of the panhandling with those. I mean, they shouldn't be standing in the middle of the roadway. That's, disturbing the peace. They shouldn't be littering. I see it on Plain Street when I walk down there near the Target. It's like a trash barrel underneath the bridge. So we're going to use the local ordinances to abate the issue.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Manager.
Any further discussion? Council Leahy?
Thank you. I just have one other thing to add, and I had brought this up before. It's interesting, when I was in Savannah, Georgia, they have signs posted that say, no panhandling under chapter, whatever the number is, and then it says, if you feel threatened or uncomfortable or something like that, please call the local police department. So, I mean, they have signs posted in all their parks that say, panhandling is prohibited under a certain section. So I just find it funny that we're getting sued for this and looking for legal costs and everything, when and when I did go to the city hall and ask them about it, they thought I was kind of crazy. They said, we've been doing this since 1980 whatever, and we never have a problem.
Mr. Manager?
Apparently, the Supreme Court of Georgia is a lot different from the Supreme Court of Massachusetts and the U.S. District Court. So I think that's the major issue.
Any other discussion? Not? All in favor? All opposed? So voted. Before the chair takes a motion to adjourn, I'd just like to thank Professor Sanborn for coming down. I hope we provide you with an entertaining meeting in your class as well, and I'm sure we'll see you next year too. The chair would entertain a motion to adjourn. All in favor? All opposed? So voted. We stand adjourned.
Oh, that was a great motion I put on.